for representing Luon Energy is Cliff Spiro, who actually lives not too far from here in the landings here in Skidaway Island. He's going to give us a presentation on absorbed natural gas for marine applications. Please help me welcome Cliff Spiro.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Cliff Spiro, and I live right here in Savannah, Georgia. But I work for Luon Energy, located at the University of Illinois. I'm here with G. Swee, our Chief Technology Officer. G will assist me in answering your questions. I'm also joined in the audience by Luon. Professor Luon is the founder of the company, and Ray Kai, our principal engineer. Now, in the 2 days of meetings here, you're going to hear some really big numbers. And for the folks at the Ocean Exchange, that should be pretty gratifying. After all, big numbers usually mean big impact. And that's what we're trying to do, is have a big impact on this world. Isn't that why we're all here? Why we innovate? And we'll have big numbers, but behind every big number are often people. Real people with real problems and real issues. And I thought I'd start the discussion today with some real people. People who work for the Sweet Savannah Shrimp Company. 40 years of shrimp in the coast of Georgia. This is a picture of James and John J. Dudley. Their daddy Frank founded the company over 40 years ago, and their children are working for the company as well. For those of you who live in Savannah, it's right off of White Bluff. This is a Rose Dew dock. According to Frank, ain't nobody makes any money. Used to be some 1,500 shrimpers not that long ago in Savannah. Again, for the locals, out at Thunderbolt, you used to see 6, 7, 8 shrimpers along the dock and 6, 7, 8 deep, just waiting to offload their shrimp. Now, if you see 1 or 2, it's a special day. This article in the Atlanta magazine by Tony Rehagen last year describes this as a lost way of life. Well, I think with your help and our technology, we might restore some life to these guys, but to anybody who makes a living on the water, whether you're a fisherman or a shrimper, or if you're transporting goods or tugging or people. If you're on the waterway or if you're a recreational boater, we think our technology, with your help, can make a big difference. Now some numbers. And you heard earlier from Ray this morning, there's a lot of fuel out there, mostly petroleum, distillate, bunker C. We heard that the sulfur is going from 4.5% to 3.5% down to 1 in port. We want that to be 0. It's amazing how much fuel these big rigs use. 2 million gallons a year for our Great Lakes. You know, an ocean liner can go as little as 10 feet per gallon of gas. It's just amazing. So there's some pretty big numbers out there. There are a lot of issues with this petroleum in addition to sulfur. Fuel-bound nitrogen, there's none in natural gas. There's no sulfur. We have an issue with soot, smoke, particulate, unburned fuel, smell, spill, fire. Almost all those issues are gone with natural gas. So let's talk about our solution. This is a compressed natural gas car, but we're going to talk about absorbed natural gas in a moment, which is an alternative. This happens to be a Honda, commercially available. It uses compressed natural gas. The cost of that gas can be as low as 1/10 the cost of distillate fuel. I know you're not paying it at the pump for those of you in California because Jerry Brown has to take his cut, but it really is as low as 1/10 the cost. It's tremendously abundant, perhaps several hundred years of supply in the United States. The prices are coming down, not going up. So the car conversion is quite mature. A number of fleets around the world, such as the Singapore taxis, Shanghai buses, almost the entire country of Pakistan runs on compressed natural gas. The engine modification is quite straightforward. The storage is quite straightforward. It requires a filling station that is rather expensive, about $1 million to put in a compressed natural gas station. There are some 500 in the United States. The nearest one to Savannah is 200 miles away. Not exactly propagating as fast as we'd like, and frankly, at a dock at a marina, there will never be enough business to put $1 million station there, which is why we've come up with the concept of the absorbed natural gas station, which allows you to fill from the same line that you run your stove or your dryer on. If I could start the video. This is Professor Luon's house in Urbana, Illinois, and you can see he's filling up his tank. If we could get it paused, thank you. He's filling it up from his home. The pump provides enough pressure to fill the tank containing adsorbent. The adsorbent allows us to put more natural gas in than the compressed natural gas tank at much lower pressure and higher volume. The pump itself costs about $1,000, takes a couple hours to fill up the tank. We have developed a concept with a much cheaper pump and a better absorber. We're working with one of the major OEMs to bring this to the marketplace and for the automotive application. But can we restart? It's quite simple to operate the vehicle. Because of the capacity of about 75 miles range, we also have a dual fuel capability in the vehicle. It runs on gasoline as well. It starts and it runs just like it would. You wouldn't notice even the difference. But when you run out of natural gas after about 75 miles, you just switch it right over with a flick of a switch to liquid fuel and keep on running. You don't even feel it. So we're excited about this technology for automotive. And then here's Professor Luon filling up at a compressed natural gas station. I believe that's in Ann Arbor. It just takes a few minutes, just about as long as it would take to fill your regular car because it's compressed at 3,000 psi. It's quite safe and it's commercially available. Great. So what is ANG? ANG uses nanoparticles of carbon. We actually fill the tank with carbon and it holds more natural gas, not less. The reason is because of capillary condensation, a phenomenon discovered over 200 years ago. When you have a high surface area substance like carbon, natural gas condenses on those surfaces due to lowered surface energy. It actually becomes a liquid. It's like filling your gas tank with liquid natural gas, which we heard about today, but at room temperature. Liquefied natural gas is at about 250 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. And we just think that that's not practical for a retrofit, let alone for an OEM application. So our absorbed natural gas is like a sponge, and it holds substantially more natural gas than a compressed tank. This illustrates it with data. Our current pressure allows you to put only about 50 miles, 60 miles of range. We are able to get substantially more gas into the tank at lower pressure. This allows you to fill from the home as opposed to having the expensive gas station. We think that's the key. Again, natural gas inexpensive, substantially reduced carbon dioxide footprint, about 25% less, no pollution, safe, and available. If I could start the next video. Now, I'm a big fisherman, and I was taking a boat ride out to the Gulf Stream, bemoaning the fact that it costs us $400 to go out there every time to catch fish. And that's where it occurred to me, it would be great if we could have a boat that ran on natural gas. Could we rerun the video by any chance? Great. And so we've come up with this concept of suspending the tanks on the side of the boat rather than using up valuable space on the boat as well as adding weight. The tanks will be buoyant through a floating foam and will be attached to the hull through a mounting mechanism such as we see here. In this method, because they're buoyant, we can put virtually unlimited numbers of tanks to increase range. Whether you want to go 10 or 20 miles or thousands of miles, this is entirely possible. And this just shows a section. As the boat takes on or loses weight, as you add more and more fish and lose more and more gas, the tanks become buoyant and just float at different levels. Will it affect the performance of the boat? Certainly. We expect some reduction in fuel efficiency, We expect some reduction in maneuverability, but we think that's on the order of a few percent, whereas the savings will be on the order of 75, 80, 90%. And we think that for the shrimpers, for the recreational boaters, that'll make a big difference. A little bit about the tanks. They're double-lined steel and will be packed in a foam. This happens just to be a commercial dock float that have been out there for decades, inexpensive, available, and we'll probably modify to float our tanks. These tanks are safe. I've seen videos of them blowing these tanks up with dynamite, shooting AK-47s, putting them in bonfires. They don't leak, they don't burn. It's remarkable. There's such a narrow combustion range for methane compared to petroleum, and of course it's lighter than air, so if there was ever a rupture, which we think is unlikely, it would just escape into the atmosphere before you reach the explosion limit. A little bit about payback. As you can see from the data, an investment of under $50,000 will pay back in under 2 months. It's remarkable. You know, I've worked on hundreds of research projects over my career in research and development, and payback on the order of months or days just doesn't occur. So we think this is a true winner. Again, we're conservative here. We're using a price difference of $3 a gallon and about, again, a retrofit of just a few days in the port. There will be some elements of risk to this project. Safe and secure tank mounting needs to be demonstrated. We have not done it. We're a small startup. We're taking our technology developed for automotive and transferring it to marine. We'll need to demonstrate the mount and tank durability. We'll need to demonstrate the safe handling, fueling, and the effects of drag on performance. So what we'll do with our money, we'll get a small vessel, we'll retrofit it, we'll add a tank, we'll operate it, we'll demonstrate, we'll prove that it can be filled safely from the dock, operated, and that the performance difference will be limited. In addition, we'll begin to work with OEMs on how you would design in this technology, as well as insurers to make sure that, and the Coast Guard, that it can be operated safely. A little bit about our team. Luon is our founder, he's a professor at the University of Illinois. G and I have many years, many decades of experience actually bringing products to the marketplace, and Ray is a new engineer who knows his way around a textbook as much as a toolbox. We're located at the University of Illinois. We have access to all their analytical and design capabilities, and we'll probably begin the outfitting of the boat in Illinois and then move it to Savannah for testing. So with that, I'd just like to summarize. Natural gas is abundant, it's inexpensive, it's safe, it's clean, and we really think it's the way to go for our future marine applications. And with that, we're open to your questions. Thank you.
Good job. Okay, you're getting the hang of this now. Now it's time for questions. Who has a couple questions? Please, sir, step up, Mike.
How you doing? My question is, the next step in gas that doesn't release carbon to our atmosphere is hydrogen. Have you looked at applications in using the same technology to store hydrogen more safely? And then also, we're familiar with some technology that's using hydrogen to combust in automobiles. Have you looked at that for marine?
Okay, let me take this question. Okay. The most important source of hydrogen actually is natural gas. So actually it's more expensive to create hydrogen than just use the shale natural gas. So it doesn't make economic sense to use hydrogen at this point, even though it just burns the much cleaner, but you actually still have the methane as the precursor material to start out with. That still create carbon footprint. So that's my answer. The safety of natural gas and hydrogen is on the same rank because they are both lighter than air. As Cliff just mentioned, that if you have a leak, both hydrogen and methane will escape to the air. In fact, methane is far more safer than the gasoline. If you have a gasoline spill, the vapor of gasoline is heavier than air, so it will stay on the ground. So it's far more dangerous than a methane leak.
Please, sir.
How do you get the carbon nanoparticles into the tank? And is there any danger of them, well not danger, but will they foul or become less effective with time, and do they have to be replaced? And after you get it in, how do you keep the nanoparticles from coming out of the tank when you're burning the methane?
Excellent question. So we have proprietary technology on the packaging of these nanoparticles inside the tank. Right now, we manually fill it. It can be automated with insignificant amount of capital. We can do a robotic installation. Now, the second question is about how to arrest those particles. We also developed a patented technology that remove 99.999% of the fine particulate adsorbent from getting into the engine and destroy the engine. So we do have IP protection on these. Thank you.
Got a few more coming up. You're the fastest to the microphone, sir.
What is the volume of, or the total volume of all the tanks to get your 500 gallons per gasoline equivalent?
Now you think about the 80-foot shrimper to go 500 GGE, gallon gasoline equivalent. You will need about 1 foot diameter, 6 foot long tank. We need about 40 to 50 of those hanging on the side, both the starboard and port side of the boat.
Please. You guys.
Follow-on question to that. Based on the total amount of fuel you can actually load in, what is the percent unusable?
The question is a percent unusable fuel or residual fuel?
That's a good question, because you use adsorbent material to increase the capacity of your natural gas stored inside the tank. There will be approximately 3 to 4% residual left inside the tank. But you can actually get them out just by pulling slightly a little bit of vacuum or heat it up a little bit.
Ma'am?
I think one of the great things about this is the possibility of being able to, fill up the tank from home on your dock behind your house or whatever. Yeah. What process did you have to go through to be able to fill up the car at your home? Because I can't even disconnect my stove from the natural gas without the gas company coming out. So what's the process that a homeowner would go through to be able to, fill up at home essentially?
Go ahead.
Actually, this can be one of our service that we can sell. To sell the service to homeowners, to send some of the plumbers to reroute the natural gas line and hook up to a garden hose, probably something more durable, and then connect to a pump. The pump you notice in the video actually is a low pressure pump. It's much safer to operate and low cost. Because we can lower down the pressure, that's why the whole system cost is much, much lower than the CNG station, high pressure CNG station. So for a household to do that, you need to hire an expert like us to modify, to reroute your natural gas line and buy one of those pumps, which costs, for home vehicle fueling, costs $1,000, and hook up to the pump and use the pump to fuel the cylinder inside the car. So that's what
technically, it's not an extreme challenge, but of course, commercially, we'll be working with the gas company to make sure that they permit this, they allow this, and they ensure that it's safe.
Please, go ahead, ma'am.
I'm anticipating our discussion when we break out later and deciding who to vote for. And one of the questions that I'm going to have, and I would like to ask you to go ahead and address it now so that we don't have to figure it out, is I think when you were showing the list of where you are with the development of your technology, and it's such a complicated technology, but the simple thing of how to attach it to the boat, did I understand correctly that that's not ready for market yet?
Correct. We have several concepts. The easiest is to simply mount it to the framing of the boat. Each boat is slightly different, so we'll need to identify the structural elements that can support it. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's probably a 2 or 3 in terms of an engineering challenge. It doesn't require an invention. We are exploring the concept of what we call the saddlebag approach, where you have 2 tanks on opposite side of the boat suspended across the deck with a strap or chain. and that way they self-support, and it's just pegged to the deck rather than mounted directly to the frame. So again, being a concept company as opposed to a demonstration one, we're looking at both of those options. Again, not very difficult though.
Please, sir.
Yes, what are the weight of the tanks when filled, and have you had any preliminary discussions with the Coast Guard in terms of load line and center of gravity and how it's stabilized?
Well, the nice thing is that the boats will be buoyant, so they won't change the tanks will be buoyant, so they won't change the center of gravity. We have not had any discussions with the Coast Guard yet. Again, these tanks are remarkably safe compared to the fuel of today. So. Oh, and the weight of the tanks, a few hundred pounds apiece for these sizes.
I noticed that you presented this as a solution for the marine industry, but so far I've seen the largest vessel is an 80-foot. What about the world shipping fleet? Do you see this as a potential solution for a shipping fleet? And second question is it possible to build bigger tanks so you don't need so many?
The question of the shipping fleet, prior to today, I would have said, it can't be done. But if you can cut a ship in half and insert 50 feet, I wouldn't be surprised. Although, again, if you're going to go to that trouble, probably at that scale, liquefied may make sense. I just don't know. I think the combustion and storage and cryogenic storage may be even more complicated. That absorb could be competitive. You could certainly make the tanks of any size you want. There are some advantages to having them modular and manifolded, that is interconnected, as opposed to making one large tank. There will be some economies of scale in a large tank, but there'll be some performance advantages to the smaller ganged tanks. So,
thank you.
We have time for one more. Oh, please. First question from the left side of the room.
I actually have two related questions. I think this is a great interim technology to utilize some of the natural gas we have and some relative efficiencies. You mentioned the issue of the cleanliness of the natural gas, and I think there's some controversy that I'd like you to address, if you could, relative to the burning of natural gas versus the generation of natural gas. And the second related question is, somebody brought up the hydrogen issue. And could you talk about the relative compressibility of hydrogen, if it's relevant with this type of particulate technology versus the natural gas? Do you get the same compression? And could you then also address the generation from shale and how that is clean versus the burning?
if you want to discuss the hydrogen part.
Well, of course, the hydrogen is more cleaner because it doesn't contain any carbon. But again, it still has to be reformed from the methane as a carbon source. The shale natural gas contain about 1% of a heavier carbon, to probably C2 and C5. So those carbons need to be scrubbed off by our pump auxiliary, we call it scrubber. So there will be a small auxiliary unit attached to the pump to purify the natural gas before it goes into the cylinder. So this way you will avoid contamination of those nanoparticles. So that's the way we clean.
I think the question was more directed to the overall safety of the production of methane in the first place.
Well,
is that correct?
The cleanliness of the production of the methane,
Yep.
you know, certainly there are some biofuel approaches to this which are environmentally safe, but certainly the shale, there's a lot of energy use in the production of that, and hydrogen has some cleaner methods and also lower carbon emission methods. So I was curious what your feeling was on that, and could what you've developed be used for hydrogen for those who might think that were a cleaner way to go?
So hydrogen will absorb and capillary condense, probably though still at lower temperatures. I don't believe you'll get as much into a confined space. As far as the production of methane, you know, that train has left the station. We are converging on a natural gas-based economy. I think the production methods are substantially safer than the current petroleum methods. There may be alternatives in biofuel. I worked on an ethanol project a number of years ago, and unfortunately 5/6 of the energy we're spending in producing the ethanol compared to what was available. So you really need to draw your box carefully around the entire system to see what are the benefits. Certainly, natural gas is beneficial over residual petroleum, and that's really what we're targeting. Ultimately, there'll surely be energy solutions involving water splitting and photons and so on, but I think we're trying to fill that gap in the next few decades and make a difference now. Thank you for a great question.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Another round of applause. You take it with you.